With graduation approaching and our futures beginning to kick off, we seem to be very excited and eager about it. You're getting ready to be off on your own and take the biggest step into adulthood yet. But as we all know, education is about to get a lot harder. And as this may not affect you, some are highly affected by this, especially people with learning disabilities. Today I'm going to inform you on what a learning disability is. I'm going to talk about 3 examples of a learning disability. I'm going to inform you on how you can help someone with a learning disability. So the big question is, what is a learning disability? According to the National Institute for Learning Development, a learning disability is a weakness in the brain function that has an effect on the ability to learn. People with learning disabilities experience a difficult time processing information, receiving information, and correctly responding to information. But you can't look at someone and tell if they have a learning disability or not. In fact, people with learning disabilities sometimes don't even know they have them until they are diagnosed with them. According to the Learning Disabilities of America, 2.4 million people have been diagnosed with a learning disability. But a learning disability does not mean you're not intelligent. Many famous, brilliant people have been diagnosed with a learning disability, including Walt Disney, who was the co-founder of Walt Disney Productions, was diagnosed with dyslexia. Also, Alexander Graham Bell, who was the primary inventor of the telephone, was diagnosed with dyslexia as well. They turned out to be very successful in life. Examples of learning disabilities, the first one I'm going to talk about is APD. APD stands for Auditory Processing Disorder. APD has an effect on how sound travels through your ear and is interpreted by the brain. People with ADP may have trouble recognizing sounds and words, blocking out background noises, and knowing where the sound came from. This would make it incredibly hard to learn considering you have to hear what is being taught. The next one we'll talk about is ADHD. ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. But many people don't look at this as a learning disability. But little do they know, people with ADHD have a very hard time participating in class and staying focused. According to Learning Disabilities Association of America, 30 to 50% of people that were diagnosed with ADHD also were diagnosed with a specific learning disability on top of that. And the last one we'll talk about is dyslexia. Dyslexia is a general term for disorders that have to do with learning to read or interpret words, letters, or symbols. Some people with dyslexia experience decoding errors, especially with orders of letters. This would make it incredibly hard to learn considering you have to read what is being taught. And the last point I'm going to talk about is how can you help? According to Gina Kemp, a writer for the helpguide.org, you should first identify how the child learns best. You should see if the child is an auditory learner, meaning they have to hear what is being presented. If they're not an auditory learner, you should then see if they're a visual learner, meaning they have to see what is being presented. And if they're neither of those, you should then see if the child is a kinesthetic learner, meaning they have to do hands-on activities. By figuring out how the child learns easiest, they're most likely to stay focused. The second one is setting goals. You should set short and long-term goals for the child to achieve. If the child achieves their goals, you should reward them. If the child does not achieve their goals, you should talk about what they could do better next time. By doing this, you're pushing the child to excel and they see it as more of a reward system. And thirdly, last one, don't overdo the child. You shouldn't assign multiple assignments to the child, and you also shouldn't give multiple instructions to the child at once. You should take it one step at a time. By doing this, you're simply not overdoing the child and they're most likely to stay focused. In conclusion today, I've talked about what a learning disability is, which is a weakness in the brain function that has an effect on the ability to learn. I talked about 3 examples of a learning disability: APD, which is auditory processing disorder, ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and dyslexia. I also talked about how you can help someone, whether it's finding out how they can learn the easiest, setting goals, or simply not overdoing the child. I hope today you've learned a few things about learning disabilities. Thank you for your time.